Welcome back to the Skillabration podcast. I have Amy Kinsman and Teal Ozolins with us today. Amy's the owner of Perfect Day Event Planning. At age 40, Amy Kinsman began her career as a wedding coordinator. Over the past 8 seasons, she has grown her business from 1 wedding in her first year to 40 weddings this season. She has added 5 coordinators and planners to her team, and she's now focused on full service wedding planning and managing her business. Her kids are both successfully out of the house and married. She and her husband have 2 pups named Chewy and Obi, and she's excited to see what God has in store for her in the future. And Teal is a stay-at-home mom, wedding planner, and small business owner. Formerly a teacher, Teal takes the skills needed in the classroom, such as adaptability, patience, problem solving, kindness, and a growth mindset, to every aspect of her life. To the Skillabration podcast, where it's career day every day. Your host, Nikki is the owner of Skillabration, an online foreign language school for K-12 homeschool students. Nikki's experience learning Spanish as a second language led her to building a variety of skills that set her up for life, from soft skills to financial literacy. It's her mission to provide those same skills to youth around the world through the Skillabration podcast. We'll be interviewing guests from a variety of backgrounds and careers, ranging from teachers to business owners and blue-collar workers. We're excited to uncover their wisdom and experiences, whether it's mastering a new language, honing leadership skills, or learning the ins and outs of money. We're here to take your skills from zero to fuego. Let's go. So, Amy, we'll start with you. Tell us a little bit more about your origin story and what made you start Perfect Day.
Okay. Well, it kind of starts back to, I guess my background was in human resources. So shortly after school, I somehow got a job in human resources, even though I just graduated with a communications degree. But shortly after I took that job, maybe 2 years in, I got pregnant with my son and I decided I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And that was really important to me to do that and raise my kids. But throughout that process, I had many opportunities through their little small Christian schools to help with event planning and fundraisers. And there's always a need to volunteer. It's such a great way for me to, dip my toe into, the planning process of things and seeing how all that worked. Really enjoyed that. But as the kids got a little older, I also started to realize I don't really have a plan for what I want to be when I grow up. So I actually got this really great opportunity when my kids were in high school. A friend of mine opened a wedding venue and she asked if I wanted to come and help, just on weekends that she needed a break. And, so I went to help her out and it was really fun. I really enjoyed weddings. They're just such joyful and amazing, events, and I just wanted to be a part of it. So I kept working there, and an opportunity one day came from a bride that suddenly felt like she needed a day of coordinator. I'm like, what's a day of coordinator? I really don't even know what this is, because back in my day, you just asked a friend or a cousin or somebody to help with the wedding, responsibilities. But so I, of course, went on Google and I checked everything out, and I'm like, I can do this. So I accepted the job without knowing what I was doing, and I just kind of faked it till I made it. It went really well. Of course I did my research and I did everything I could, but I just had so much fun and I felt like I may have found something that I really enjoyed doing. So I thought, well, this will be a great little hobby. That hobby then started to turn into more of a job, because then the next season I had 8 weddings, and then the next season I had 16 weddings. It was just growing, but then COVID happened.
Wow.
Which was devastating to, of course, everybody, the wedding industry especially. But I did not give up. And I also realized at that point that it might be really smart for myself to have somebody else on my team that could fill in if I were to fall ill. I don't ever want to leave a client in the lurch. So I hired an assistant to just kind of help, with weddings. And then that just kind of started to grow and build. And a couple of years ago, I just was at a standpoint where I'm like, do I just keep this as a hobby or do I make a go of this? Do I make this a career? And I feel like God just kind of gave me these amazing people that came into my life kind of all at once. Just all in like 2 seasons, I got 5 coordinators and they've all
Wow.
been amazing. So I just feel so blessed that God kind of just gave me that direction. And
Yes.
so that's kind of my origin story of how I got
Yeah.
started and how I got to where I am.
So before we get into talk, because you have Teal here who's on your team, and we'll talk to you, Teal, too, about how you work with Amy, and also you have a little bit of a story about your own business. But I do have a couple follow-up questions for you, Amy. So first off, during COVID, did you have any weddings that you did, or was it just zero?
Well, we were pretty shut down from March until July, believe it or not. I had my first wedding, and it was kind of a crazy wedding because I feel like people were really rearing to go.
Okay, okay,
Um,
okay.
yeah, they were ready to party after being cooped up for a while. So, and I was kind of like, everybody was a little cautious. We were like really not sure what this is going to look like. And there was a venue that was allowing weddings, and I was booked at that, and it ended up being great. And the people just had such a good time that for a moment I felt like the world was normal again. And so that's what kind of made me just want to keep going. Cause, I just thought, people still want to be together. They still want to celebrate. And it looked different. Obviously, it was smaller and it was more cautious, and there was like protocol that we had to follow. But yeah, we were shut down for several months. I feel like every day I was getting my emails and just dreading opening another email from another client saying they're going to cancel or they're going to reschedule. But thankfully, I would say about 75% of my couples rescheduled. I did lose a few clients, which was sad, or they just eloped or whatever. But, it was the way it was for everybody. So I guess in a way it was oddly comforting that other people were going through the same thing that I was going. It wasn't just woe is me. So
yeah. I mean, that's where that skill of perseverance comes in, You have to,
for sure.
As an entrepreneur, small business owner, you have to have that perseverance. And that's something to, like, I always try to remember or remind the guests on the show just to talk about too, like thinking of the families who might be listening to this. How can we teach that kind of skill to kids, bringing it back to the students, the youth of today? Do you have anything you want to add to that with that in mind?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I've always just had the mindset to never really give up. I even tell my kids, I don't want you to ever quit. I didn't raise quitters. You got to try. You got to, just see it through to the end. If you didn't succeed at it the way you wanted to, at least you gave it your all. And that's really important to just, I think, go through life giving it your all, no matter what you decide to do, and just putting your best foot forward. So.
What year did you establish yourself as an LLC?
2017.
Oh, okay. So that was pretty early. That was pretty early on in your.
Yeah. Well, I mean, though it was kind of a hobby business, I wanted to make sure that I was taking all the proper steps. If I did want to make it bigger, I wanted to have a website. I wanted to have all these things so that it was a legitimate business, though it was a hobby at the time. So I was trying to set myself up for the potential that it would grow into something more.
Okay, so let's talk about when you met Teal and how did that all happen? And then Teal, you can give us a little bit of your origin story too.
So I found out about Teal through one of my coordinators. Her name is Maddie. Shout out to Maddie. She's been with me probably I know, right? She's been with me the longest. She's been fantastic. This is just kind of a side job for her, but she said she had a friend that was also interested in doing coordination. And I thought, I just hired a couple people on my team. I don't know if I really have room for another person, but Maddie was really insistent that I at least meet with her. So we met and had coffee, and she was just amazing. Teal was great. I'm like, oh, gosh, I got to figure out a place to put her. I just don't know where, but I know, again, God's going to just give me this, this ability to do that. And so she and I had a conversation. I offered her the job pretty much on the spot, and she very, very quickly became like a super valuable asset to the team. So, she's kind of like my right hand man right now. I don't know what I would do without Teal at this point.
That's amazing. I love when
Mhm.
that happens. Like you're not even thinking really about adding someone necessarily, but you make room for that person because you just, that's the right person that you need for your team. That's so
Right.
nice.
Yeah.
So maybe Teal, do you want to share a little bit about yourself and how you went from teaching to doing what you're doing now?
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of growing up, I always thought I was going to be a teacher. It never wavered in my mind. I knew that's what I was going to do. And I went to Carroll University. I loved it. I loved all of my classes, education. I loved kids. It still felt really aligned with me. And then COVID hit when I was student teaching. So like schools closed, all of that. And I think that definitely like missed a chunk of opportunity and realization during that period because then when I came into teaching, it just didn't feel right. It just didn't feel like I was doing my highest power. I wasn't exactly where I
Mhm.
needed to be, which was very much a mental struggle because my entire life I was like, I'm going to be a teacher. That's what I was going to do. And it just wasn't aligning with me anymore. So I tried multiple avenues. I did different grades, different regular ed, special ed, different districts, really trying to make sure that I was firm in the decision that it was teaching that wasn't really aligning with me. And then before I got pregnant, me and my husband sat down and we made sure, okay, we're going to buy a house, our mortgage and everything will be off your income so that when we do have children, I could have the ability to stay home with them because that was important to me. Kids were always important. I wanted to be around and really be fully encompassed in their really young years.
Mhm.
And so then I got pregnant and we were having our son, and it felt like it aligned perfectly because I had already tried different districts, different grades, and teaching just wasn't giving me what I thought it would. And we also already had established that it would be okay if I did stay home with our child. So I
Mhm.
took that leap and I said I was going to be done with teaching. And I still was going to keep up my license to make sure, okay, maybe it's just a flop. Maybe after I spend some time at home, I will want to go back. But since I have left, I have seen my mental health get better. I've seen kind of what I can give to others increase. And I just, it wasn't the path I was supposed to be on. And that was hard to accept. But now that I've accepted it, I've definitely seen growth in so many areas, like just being able to be fully present with my son and my family. And then also, finding this amazing avenue with Amy and Perfect Day and just really diving into all the aspects of wedding and, the different sides, the behind the scenes. And then also, starting our own business at my house, which is really fun. It's very cool.
So what is your business? You can share that too.
Yeah. So it's called Blue Green Designs. And basically, it's like signage or custom gifts. So we have a CO2 machine, which can laser engrave and cut a bunch of different materials and products. So one avenue of that is kind of the wedding market. So kind of wedding signs, like personalized menus, nameplates, seating charts, all of those kind of things we're able to provide. And then my husband's also in the military. So he's always really big on let's sell for the military, let's do like mugs and cups and personalized engraved items. So we kind of have two different main sides, and then hopefully to also just kind of have those cute little knick-knacky gifts and Etsy
Mhm.
store. But yeah, we just started up. So we became an official LLC just 2024. So we're brand new, but it's been really
Congratulations.
exciting. And Amy's definitely kind of helped not only with me understanding the way things work with kind of your own
Mhm.
business and an LLC and those things, but also just helping me kind of maneuver the wedding scene and that kind of market as well.
Yeah. Amy, maybe you could talk a little bit more too about like giving advice to the youth about what you should bring to the workforce in terms of like what you saw in Teal as an example. Like she stood out to you so much that
Mhm.
you're like, okay, I have to add her to my team. And then not only that, but then when she's on your team, Teal, you start taking initiative and like really impressing Amy, even to invite you on this podcast. So, so I'd love to hear you guys speak to that.
Absolutely. So I think one of the most impressive things like I saw in Teal and actually all of my coordinators is just their communication skills are really good. I just responding to my texts or my phone calls right away, and also to their clients, and just responsiveness is really important. I think people just feel important when you make them a priority. I think Teal also kind of impressed me during our interview because she also asked questions. So she took initiative to show me that she was also interested in not only the business or my personal life or things like that, but just she was very concerned about other things other than just her getting the job, very focused. And that's kind of how I would love to impress that upon the youth of today, is to show interest in others and show that empathy and compassion and interest in others, because there's more to the big picture than just yourself. You know, there's so many other things you can learn from others just by asking and listening. So I guess the communication is the biggest thing for me that I would like to impress upon young people, is to polish those skills, hone those skills, talk to people. You know, we're so focused on our phones and our devices and things like that, but you know, instead of a text, maybe just pick up the phone and call.
Yes.
So, the old fashioned way.
I like that you give examples too of like responding quickly or in a timely manner, calling instead of texting, showing that you're interested, asking questions. Those are really good specific examples, because I've had several interviews with different business owners so far, and everyone will say communication is so important, but they might not give those specific examples. So thank you for doing that. Teal, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think kind of a big thing, and I think I had the general idea, but I didn't know what it was called or more like fine-tuned it until college. But I think having a growth mindset is just so important. So that was kind of like a key term I learned when I was learning to be a teacher, is having that growth mindset. And just, you learn from every single person that you interact with, and you can choose to like take those things and use them and grow yourself. Or you could just completely disregard them. But, I think it's just so important to constantly be thinking about how you can improve. So I see a lot of today being like, ooh, well, they did this, or they didn't make, this test, they failed it, or they got a bad grade, or however it may be, and looking at that as a deficiency when, okay, so what can I do better next time? Or how can I learn? Or if it was like a bad test grade, who did get a good grade and who could maybe assist me in learning these skills? And just constant self-improvement, because even if it's not like a huge step, just constantly being open to learning more and trying to better yourself every day, I just feel will come across in your interactions with others. It will benefit your life individually, and just it really creates a good atmosphere around yourself.
Exactly. How do you define a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset?
Yeah, so I think really just the growth mindset is being, constant improvement, and you're looking for ways to better not only yourself, but what you're doing those around you, and just being open to change and adaptability. Where kind of that fixed mindset is, this is what I believe, this is what I see, and you can't really change my mind, or I can't adapt to the situation because it's not what I thought, or it's not what I planned for. So when you have that growth mindset and that adaptability piece, you're able to really shift and, think on the spot and change things. And that's huge in teaching, right? Like if you're given a lesson plan, that's for some average student somewhere, who knows where, but you have 30 kids with different brains and different personalities and different experiences. And you have to adapt that, or it's not going to reach anybody. And just having that adaptability and really thinking about who you're communicating with and how to do that accurately and best for not only yourself, but also them, is just key.
Yes, 100%. And then for the listeners, there's a whole TED Talk about growth and fixed mindset. Angela Duckworth, she's the one I'm thinking of. I think she's got the one that talks about growth and fixed mindset. She did a whole study.
Also has a lot of different like education growth mindset and things.
Yeah. They even talk about like how it's scientific, where when you're with the growth mindset, the more you do stuff over and over again, you overcome that fixed, whatever you think you're fixed on. Like, let's say I'm not good at math. If you think you're not good at math, you keep telling yourself that's the fixed mindset. But then if you're continuously practicing with it and then seeing success, then your brain neurons actually begin to create new pathways. And that's where you're creating that growth. So there's science behind it, guys.
Yes.
Okay. So let's get back to talking a little bit about running your own business. What are the unforeseen daily struggles and hardships? Maybe Amy, you want to touch on this, and then Teal.
Well, in the wedding industry, it's so unpredictable. So even as much as when I was having a earlier meeting with my staff in April, just trying to figure out what their goals were for the year, a lot of them wanted some, predictability or stability with their schedules. And that's something, unfortunately, in the wedding industry, you can't necessarily offer. You don't know when the weddings are going to come in or what days they're going to come in or what type of wedding it's going to be, or what kind of couple is it going to be? Is it going to be a complicated couple, or is it going to be a really easy kind of couple? You just don't know. So I think that's probably one of my biggest struggles, is just the unpredictable nature of the wedding industry. And there are no two weddings that are ever the same. No two couples, no two, venues, no two groups of vendors. It's just, again, talking about that adaptability, and just being able to go with the flow. It's really important. So that's, I think, one of my biggest struggles. Everybody always talks about the typical bridezilla or anything. I don't get too many of those, to be honest with you. I mean, people are people. People can be difficult, and just got to offer them grace, and, know that everybody has things going on in their life, and you don't know what is going on behind their doors. And so, a lot of times weddings are very stressful. So I, again, just try to treat everybody with love and patience. And, but that can be a struggle too, because it's so easy to slip into the, they're treating me bad because they don't like me, but it's probably not about me. It's
not personal.
Yeah. And so I think that has been helpful in developing some thicker skin. I never want to be a thick skinned person. That's just not who I am. But that is definitely a struggle too.
Or do your clients ever lean on you for advice? Do you ever feel like you're turning into a counselor ever? Or is it pretty much always just strictly planning?
Oh no, I have a couple of clients right now where it almost seems like it's crossed it almost to a personal level. And I actually feel like that they feel they could trust me, and they can talk with me. And no, I don't ever feel like a therapist. I actually feel at this point in my life, I'm almost as old as old enough to be their mother. So it feels almost like I'm taking on more of a maternal role, or a role of I can offer them some advice or some, just some support. Maybe they're not getting it from the people that they need it from. And so if I can offer it to them, I'm happy to do that. It actually makes me feel really good when a client will come to me with maybe a personal problem that is related to the wedding, of course. But I have a few of those right now, and I don't mind it, actually.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's really nice that you feel comfortable with that and confident with that. I do have a follow-up question, but first let's get to Teal. What about you? Any unforeseen daily struggles or hardships for your business?
Yeah, I would say there's kind of two main ones I immediately kind of think of. One of them is just at this total startup spot. It is just challenging to find the information that you need to know. So knowing all the requirements of an LLC and how to do things correctly, so, you don't make a mistake that could either, taxes or anything like that, hurt you in the long run. And that's just really hard to find. Of course, if you have lots of money, you can go hire someone to tell you all of those things. But if you're just starting up a business, that's probably not the case.
Yeah.
So it's just super important to have people like Amy, or people who either have experience kind of creating their own business, or just who are there to provide support or to listen or help in any way they can, whether it's advice, or just time, ideas, anything like that. So I would say definitely just making sure all of the information you have to learn to make your own business, and decisions and all of those things can be a challenge. And then also, since I am a stay-at-home mom and I'm doing this all with a 1-year-old, adapting to as he's growing up, it looks very different, my work day. So before it was he would be happy in like a bouncer or something, and I could do emails and phone calls and have stuff out on the floor or the desk. And now that he's older and moving more, I better not bring a computer in there or he's typing away on it. He's going to send some emails for me. So it's definitely just constant adaptation and figuring out what works for us as a family, to make sure that we're kind of meeting everybody's needs.
Yeah. What about, so again, kind of connecting it back to the youth today, what advice would you give the youth in terms of, okay, working for somebody else versus creating your own business, or kind of what you went through, Teal, where you're like, you think you're going to do one thing and then kind of like, it's a struggle. Like it's that internal conflict because you're like, I thought I was going to do this thing and now I'm not. So speak on that.
Yeah, I would say don't be afraid of taking risks. So that's definitely something. I mean, you want to go into decisions with some knowledge and some thought and, feeling behind it. But it's okay to do things you don't know, and it's okay to do things you might fail at, and really just trusting yourself that, it will work out, whether it ends and that's okay, or it blossoms to something amazing. I think really just taking risk is so huge, especially with today. Everyone's scared of doing something differently, or, taking a chance that's out of the norm or what their parents expect of them, and to just really like follow what feels good into their soul and their heart and what they think is going to give them energy and power. And if you're doing something that you love and something that empowers you, you're going to be more energetic and you're going to be happier. And if you're doing something that isn't serving you, you're going to feel drained and you're not going to have the empathy or the energy for your family or friends or yourself. And really just admitting that to yourself is huge, and being okay with the answer, even if it's not the answer you want.
That resonates with me because when I quit the public school system, or maybe I should say when I resigned, I had the internal struggle as well. And I felt like the job that I was doing in the public school system, the way the system was set up, it was a disservice to the students. So that was draining me, even though I love teaching, and I love working with students. But I was like, I still want to teach. I still want to make an impact on the youth. How do I do this? And so I had to leave the school system to do it. And now, having Skillabration, now I'm doing that and I'm energized and I'm, talking to you guys. So that's a great point. Never thought of it in those terms. What about you, Amy?
Oh, there's been definite times of, my son actually asked me, Mom, this is so crazy. Did you ever in a million years see yourself doing this when you were like my age? And I said, no, never in a million years. Did I see myself as a business owner and running a business? It's, honestly, like I said, I took it from hobby to now career, and it has been a terrifying ride. I will not lie. So, well, as Teal said, it's worth the risks, because it's been so empowering to me to learn that I can actually do this. And there has been failures. I mean, of course, everybody fails at things, but I think that through perseverance and hardship, you will succeed. So you just got to kind of navigate those failures and those hardships and turn them into a positive, and learn from those experiences and just get back up, dust yourself off and keep trying, and, try it a different way. But like I said, I just feel I've worked the corporate world. I've done the home, stay-at-home mom thing before. This was just, I had the luxury to take the risk. I really did, because my husband was able to support us, and I feel very blessed and very grateful for that. I think Teal kind of also has that same situation going on. Not everybody has that, but I also feel that if you don't take those risks in life, you'll never know. If I don't ever want to live life with regrets. I want to try. And if it wasn't the right thing, it'll be revealed to me that wasn't the right thing, and I need to find something else. But I've always encouraged my kids to live their passion, follow their dreams, do what makes them happy, because I don't want them or myself or anybody to be stuck in a miserable job that they just, like you said, feel drained and like you're not really giving anything to your community or the people.
Yeah, I just had a way kind of what Amy was saying, to connect it back to the youth a little bit. So a way to take a risk, that might not be creating your own business or something like that. And I have a personal example is I tried a lot of taking risks in college. So I would apply for scholarships or I would speak at conferences, and that was all terrifying, but I did it. But one really great one is I tried out for the cheerleading team in college, a college cheerleader, never cheered, like maybe like in fifth
Wow.
grade. And I was just like, one day woke up and I was like, yeah, that sounds fun. And I tried out for it and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And this is crazy and weird, but I made the team. And do I think I mean, I couldn't do flip. I couldn't do anything like that, but it was fun. And was it completely my element? No. And it was a risk I took because, as
Yes.
a younger person, you don't want to be told like, you didn't make the team or you weren't good enough. So that was definitely a
Mhm.
risk. But I just
Mhm.
took it to try something new. And did I continue it after a year? No. But did I have fun during that 1 year? Yeah, absolutely. And I think just taking little risks, whether, risks don't always have to deal with like a giant thing or something that does need money or anything like that. They can be smaller risks. It's just getting used to kind of being comfortable in those uncomfortable moments that can really make you
Yes.
grow as a person.
100%.
For sure.
Okay, so let's talk about the other coin. The other side of the coin would be the blessings from having your own business. So, do you want to start that one off, Amy?
Oh, there's been so many along the way. I think the biggest blessing that this job has or career has given me is the flexibility that I've and just the freedom. I know that sounds strange when you're talking about a job and having freedom, but it actually has it allowed me to stay at home with my kids even through high school and to start navigating this process. But it also I felt like it was a good um, example to my kids too, as they saw me struggle through this process. I mean, they saw me break down and cry. They saw me, yay, so excited. I got a new client. They've seen it all. And then, so I think that really helped, shape and mold them a little bit too, that, hey, even an old dog can learn new tricks.
Yes.
So I hope that they took those lessons with them when they left. But another blessing is, I've been able to, help out a little bit more with the financial things. Like I was able to help pay for my kids' college out of my income, or I was able to help pay for weddings when they got married. And it just, all those little things that, we could have afforded those things, but I feel like that really, again, gave me some extra empowerment that I can do these things. And my husband has been really proud of me. So that's been a big blessing too, is I know he's always been proud of me, but, just really proud of all the accomplishments and the hard work. And I think another blessing, of course, is the people that I get to meet along the way. I just, again, shout out to my team. They're just incredible people. And I just feel so happy to have each and every one of them being a part of my life and work. And I see how hard they're working. And I'm so proud of them too. So that's been a big blessing. I hope that also with my couples, my clients, that they walk away from their wedding day experience just feeling a lot less stressed out and feel like they had a really good experience, and that they may or may not remember my name next year, but I hope that they remember their day was the best day ever.
They will remember your name. Of course they will.
So there's been just bountiful blessings with this job. Again, there's always hardships, but I wouldn't be doing it if the blessings didn't outweigh the hardships.
Totally. Do you want to add, Teal?
Yeah. So I would say kind of one of the really cool pieces of kind of starting up and creating your own business is it's yours. So for me, that's kind of like oh, I did this, like, wow. And so that's been something that me and my husband have celebrated each little piece along the way. Like we got our PO box, or we're officially an LLC, or we got our first gig or job. And just celebrating those little wins is something that like you yourself have created is really cool. But then 100% the biggest blessing is just being able to stay home with my son and, experience, especially when they're so young, so many milestones happen so quickly. And the fact that I get to stay home and have outdoor little picnic lunches every day with my son, that it's nice out because I get to be home. Or thinking like down into the future, I can do t-ball games. I could be a mom that goes in and volunteers at the school because I have that availability. And that has truly just been such a blessing because although we like scheduled everything and made sure that we could support ourselves with just my husband, having some type of income feels really good. Kind of like Amy said, it empowers you, even if it's not a huge chip or a huge amount, just providing something for your family definitely feels really good.
Definitely.
For sure.
So this question kind of came up when you were talking about like playing the maternal role. And this is just, I don't know if it's relevant. I think it's kind of relevant, but like speaking to the youth today about relationships, like what advice would you guys give in terms of what to look for in a spouse? Do you have like 3 tips or 3 pieces of advice related to that? To success in marriage? Because I think it's like something that people don't talk about it really that much. To the youth especially. It's kind of like, okay, just find your partner and get married and then hope it works.
I think, everybody's like, oh, I found my soulmate. I think it's really important. I think the characteristics in a spouse or the things that you would want is somebody who is just really supportive of your hopes and your dreams. Somebody that's literally just like your cheerleader, your biggest fan, who celebrates with you when you make those little accomplishments. That's really important. Also somebody who's there to listen to you. Those kind of go hand in hand. But just your best friend, somebody who's going to listen to you when you're really upset and angry and you need to vent, or somebody that wants to just hear when you've had a really good day and celebrate those successes with you. And I think that, somebody who shares the similar values that you have, whether they be spiritual values, moral values, work values, all those things, you need to be in alignment with them. You can't necessarily be dragged through life by your partner, and you can't drag your partner through life. And so if you weren't aligned, spiritually, and, work ethic wise and things, it's just not going to be a good pairing. So, I think that's just very important that you're equally yoked.
Yeah, definitely. And that's something where another communication skill comes in, is like being willing to have tough conversations with that person before you commit, and asking questions and making sure it does align, and looking at actions too, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Did you want to share anything, Teal? When did you get married? Because you're younger, so.
Yeah, I got married in 2021. So we're on our 3rd year right now. I would say definitely kind of with that communication piece, being able to experience or at least talk through how you're going to handle stressful situations and making sure the way you both communicate aligns. Just because there's always going to be hardship or catastrophes or things that happen, and making sure that can be communicated and shared in a mutual way is really big, because your entire marriage, you're going to have things come up and you're going to have to communicate with each other, and just making sure that you've kind of seen that side. A lot of people will deal with stress differently, and there's not necessarily a right and wrong way, but you kind of need to see that in someone you're going to choose to spend the rest of your life with. You need to kind of acknowledge all of those sides. And then, also looking at their lifestyle. They say opposites attract, which definitely can, but you also kind of need to see, like, how do they live their day to day? Are they super messy? That's fine if you are, but if you're like a clean freak, let me tell you, you guys are going to fight all the time. Like, it's not going to work. And just really, yeah. I mean, there's definitely fundamental things that you kind of have to think about to make sure you guys at least are compatible in that way. But I would say probably
Yeah.
my biggest one is that you can be yourself around them. So if you find yourself at any point kind of dimming your light, then they're not the
Mm.
one. You know, you
Mm-hmm.
can be silly and crazy and loud, or whether you're really quiet or reserved, or however your personality is, they need to be able to see that. And if you're not comfortable with that, then they're not going to be the right person for you.
Thank you guys for sharing those things, because I know that question wasn't on our list, but it kind of came up and I was like, you know what, this might be a good one to talk about too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are your top 3 skills that have served you in life and also in career? Maybe they're the same. I don't know.
I think the couple that really popped out for me, and I think they're not all the same. I think I've learned through the years. I think I've always kind of had what I guess is coming out now called emotional intelligence. I don't have a lot of like the book smarts. I got through college. I did okay. I made good grades and everything. But just having that, like really being able to read people and, in situations and things has been like, I don't know that this is a skill or a gift, to be honest with you, but that has really been a blessing to me my whole life, because that's pretty much what got me through all my situations. But more, and then of course the communication key. I think just being a communications major in college and then learning all of those things through, being in HR and the experiences that I've had, learning how truly important communication key is. But also kind of a more recent skill that I've learned that has been completely invaluable to me is financial literacy. My husband and I, not so awesome with our finances early in our marriage. We racked up a bit of debt with, we'll pay it back later. We're going to make good money, things like that. But quickly decided that we didn't have much saved for college. We didn't have much of a retirement, all those things. So we started reevaluating things and kind of had some life-changing experiences. And it's been amazing. I wish they would teach this in schools. I wish that they would talk more about how to manage your money, how to, put money into a 401k, all these things that you don't think about as you're just getting your paycheck and so excited and you want to buy a new car or you want to buy that next house or da, da, da. It's so easy to just rack things up on your credit card and not think about the consequences of that later or what it's going to look like when you hit your 40s and you realize you don't have a college fund for your kids or, retirement. It's terrifying. So that has been, I guess, I don't know that again, it's a skill or a blessing that's come along. Just having that epiphany moment of learning how to actually understand our money and how to actually be responsible fiscally has been, and I would say that that's a huge element that anybody should learn way younger than I did.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, I'm on the same page with you in terms of like, we should be teaching this in schools from the get-go. That's why I have the Skillabration podcast for conversations like this, because if it's not the schools doing it, then let's do it at home or, wherever we can. We work with a lot of homeschool families. So just bringing the conversation to light at least plants the seed. If Skillabration might not offer that class today, but maybe we will in the future. Right now we're a foreign language school, but I love skills, and that's my goal with reaching families for that kind of thing. So thank you for sharing that. What about you, Teal?
Yeah, I would say kind of if I had to pick 3 skills that have just helped me both like business and life, I would definitely say adaptability. I think that's huge, just being able to adapt to different situations, kind of what you get served, where life takes you. You can't plan for things always. So being able to adapt and change. Yeah. I would say kind of sitting in your stretch zone. So, right, being comfortable, being uncomfortable, because that's where we grow in our stretch zone where we're being pushed a little bit. And then definitely, well, I guess I kind of have 4. So work ethic, I think is super important, kind of having that drive and just continuously pushing and expecting excellence out of yourself. Not to say you won't make mistakes, but that you're always striving to do better. But then also one that's not quite a skill is just surrounding yourself with people who help you do that. So who support you, who will push you to be better. If they're not pushing you or fighting back on things with you, then you're never going to grow and you guys will just sit or adapt to a lesser lifestyle that's not improving yourself or each other. So I think really having the people that surround you be very supportive and also have similar growth mindset or however you feel with your ethic and morals, just making sure that aligns with who you spend your time with.
Yeah, and that kind of is a testament too to like when you said the people you surround yourself with. So like even Amy, you could be threatened by Teal starting her own business in the wedding industry or whatever. Like but no, you're like, yeah, that's amazing. Let's, let me help you, let me support you. So yeah, that's awesome.
I think it's incredibly important to help support and empower other people too. It's just why wouldn't you want other people to succeed and do well and reach their goals and live their dreams? I mean, it's an incredible thing to see other people succeed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think, just going into that scarcity mindset, if somebody has that scarcity mindset, it's more like, I mean, I don't know. I never really feel threatened by people who are doing their own thing because if somebody, let's just say like somebody's copying you or something, you could feel like threatened by that. But no, if they're copying you, that's not that's not going to be successful because you can't do what somebody else is doing, So I don't know.
Yeah. No, so I know what you're saying. There's definitely been times where I've had people call posing as a client. And I'm like, no, they're definitely checking out like how I'm running my business. I can tell by the questions that they ask. Yeah. I'm like, oh, they're totally scouting out. They want to start their own business. But I just keep going because I'm like, anybody can do what I do, honestly. I mean, you don't need a college degree to do this. I mean, it helped serve me well, obviously, the skills that I did learn, but you don't need a college degree to do what I'm doing. Nobody has ever once asked me what I went to school for.
Interesting. Yeah. That's interesting.
So again, anybody can do this. I try not to feel threatened by it. Maybe it's a bit annoying, but I'll still talk with them and treat them like I would treat any other client, even if they're just trying to get information out of me.
Yeah, exactly. But everybody has their own unique twist on things. So nobody can 100% copy you. And I feel like the people who do try to attempt to copy, they're going to fail because they don't have like the stamina or the grit to really figure it out themselves,
Or the creativity to do their own thing.
Right. That's what I mean. Yeah. Like you're just, that's not a successful way to go about things. So even if somebody is doing that, it's like, okay, well, let's see how things go.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. So to wrap up the podcast episode here, what advice would you give to your younger self, just keeping the youth in mind? Or if you just want to speak directly to the youth of today, how do you want to end on that note?
Ours doesn't completely, like my thought is not completely related to kind of what we talked about so far.
Yeah,
but
sure.
I would say do affirmations. That is something I didn't do when I was younger. And I started, post college, and then I did it with my students. And you feel really silly at first. And, it just seems weird. But then all of a sudden, you're working harder or you feel better about your image or whatever it is. And it's just something you don't realize has such a big effect on the way you speak to yourself. And seeing it with the youth as a teacher, I did it every single morning with my kids. I made them all say affirmations with me every morning in morning meeting. And again, it's one of those things, the boys laugh or mumble, and some of the girls will say it really loud and proud, and some still whisper it. And you don't think it has that big of an effect. And then we had a guest speaker come in and they asked the kids, like, what's something that makes you feel good, or somebody that makes you feel good? And I had every kid that spoke up at that time said something about affirmation, or how we have to say these, but they make me feel really good. Or I know that Mrs. Oz believes in me because she tells me. And just self-talk and how you speak to yourself is so important. And I think the more people that do affirmations will start to believe and trust in themselves. And it might feel really silly, but it does have a really big impact And I just think everybody should do them.
Do you have an example, like one or two examples of an affirmation?
Yeah, so a lot of the ones I like to do that are kind of like more broad, and you can be super specific with them. But a starting one is I am loved, I am kind, I am smart. If it's a youth that's really athletic, I'm good at basketball. I can get an A on this test. I know how to multiply. You can really do
Okay.
anything, but it is I am. So I am
Okay.
something positive. I am beautiful. I am kind. I am smart. And again, if you look at yourself in the mirror when you say them, extra points to you, but that feels even more awkward. But it truly does have an impact, and you might not see it outwardly, but then, if you do it for a week solid, all of a sudden, things will start changing, or you'll feel lighter or better. And it really does have an impact on people.
Thank you for sharing. What about you, Amy?
Oh, that's like literally the first thing on my list was positive self-talk.
Okay.
It is again so important. And just know that you are loved, and be also, off that, to just be kind. I know that's kind of a big thing right now. Everybody's wearing it on their t-shirts and everything, but really, truly, there's no need to be mean to people. You just be nice to people and know that everybody is dealing with their own yuck every day if they're having a hard day.
Yeah.
And just try to be empathetic and supportive to people. Just being kind to people just will really go a long ways too. Because I don't think it feels good to be mean to people, but it definitely feels good to be nice to people.
Yeah, and I think that's coming up more these days because of the internet, and it's so easy to be like a keyboard warrior, right? So people can just make a negative comment on anybody's post, and they think, oh, or if it's like somebody who has a bigger following, you're like, they might think, well, they're not going to see this, but it's still representing you. And that energy is within you. So you're kind of putting out that negative energy, and it's coming from within you. Whereas like if you're putting out more of a positive energy, that's going to come back at you. So it is true. What do you guys think about kindness though, versus when you need to have those honest, tough conversations? Because sometimes the pendulum can swing so far in one direction, and then it's like you're walking on eggshells. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I don't think that kindness means you have to be soft-spoken. I think kindness just kind of has like an empathy, like you have empathy as well. So you don't have to dim your light or not say how you feel to be kind. You can disagree with someone and still be kind. It's just in the way you say it and the respect you have for a person. So when those tough conversations do need to happen, or a disagreement is in place, there is a way to do things that where you could be aggressive or mean, or you could just, share your feelings, your thoughts, but still remain kind and right. Like, yeah, if you're disagreeing with someone, that instantly isn't like, well, who's going to be kind if they're disagreeing? But there are definitely ways that feel much better and much kinder than other ways to disagree with somebody.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
For sure. And another thing, I feel like there's a big difference between being assertive and being aggressive. So, if you find that somebody's maybe not being kind to you, or they're doing something and you need to maybe point something out to them, you're asserting yourself and your values and what you believe in a nice way, versus being aggressive and mean and like coming after them and making them feel on the defensive. So, but there are definitely times where I've had to have conversations that are hard, and with either a client or with a staff, and just coming at it from like a listening standpoint and like, tell me about what's going on with this particular situation so I can get a better understanding. Again, builds that empathy, that understanding. So like you, instead of jumping to conclusions or trying to figure out what's happening in your own mind, you listen to what other people have to say first, because again, everybody, like I said before, everybody has yuck. And you just want to be able to listen and hear what they have to say. And then I think that'll really help you come at it from a different perspective.
I love that advice in terms of listening, because that's another skill too. Like, listening is absolutely a skill. So, all right. So before we end this podcast, you guys have like a one-liner of either something that's like a let me cheer you on one-liner, or a one-liner piece of advice, just to end on that note.
I kind of had it written down and I said it a little bit earlier, but I'm going to say it again. Yeah. So if you persevere through hardship, you will have succeeded.
Yay. I agree. What about you, Teal?
I would say you are kind, you are loved, and you are appreciated.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, ladies, so much for coming on the Skillabration podcast. I really appreciate you. It was such a pleasure to talk to you guys. We will put contact information in the show notes, but do you want to share websites or anything where people could find you, if you just want to shout it out real quick before we end?
Well, Teal is my social media genius, so I'll let her do that.
So
yes, there are.
Instagram, you can find us at Perfect Day Event Planning LLC. Or I know TikTok is so famous with the youngins, so we have a TikTok as well. Our TikTok is at perfect.day.event.
Okay, great. And then did you have any, Teal, as well for your signage store?
Yeah, I have a TikTok as well. So our TikTok is at blue.green.design. And then our Instagram is at bluegreen.design.
Okay, great. There you have it, everyone. Thanks again, ladies.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. And to the listeners, we'll see you in the next episode.